Hey everyone. Tonight we begin not with roaring guns or tank assaults, but in a desert where the sun burns the skin by day and the night slices to the bone with cold. The sand that scalds your feet at noon becomes a coffin at midnight, swallowing men who bury themselves for warmth. You've heard tales of Rommel's maneuvers and the glory of the Afrika Korps. But the true enemy here wasn't the British, it was the desert itself. This was a land where scorpions crawled into blankets, where soldiers huddled under tanks breathing poison fumes, where dreams ended with morphine overdoses. This isn't strategy or conquest. This is survival. Measured in rags stolen for bedding, in stones heated like relics, in nights when sleep itself became a gamble with death. If history's darkest corners spark your curiosity, hit like and subscribe. And tell me, where are you watching from? And what's the harshest night you've ever faced now? Hold your breath. We march into the sleepless nightmare of North Africa. The sun, a relentless eye in the vast North African sky, finally dips below the horizon, painting the endless dunes in shades of fiery orange and deep violet. You watch, shivering almost imperceptibly, as the last vestiges of its warmth leach from the air. Moments ago, the sand beneath your worn boots felt like a griddle, scorching through the thin leather. Now, an insidious chill begins to creep in, promising to burrow deep into your bones. The transformation is swift, brutal. You can feel the temperature plummeting from a searing 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or even higher, to something closer to freezing, perhaps down to 35 or 40 degrees in the deepest hours of the night. It's a shocking, almost unbelievable contrast. A cruel joke played by this desolate landscape. You are one of them, a German soldier, clad in a uniform that offers little protection against this sudden, encroaching cold. Your comrades shiver beside you, their breath already misting in the twilight air. The tanks, those colossal machines of war, still radiate a faint warmth, a fleeting comfort soon to vanish. Stars begin to prickle the inky canvas above, countless and cold, mocking the meager warmth you desperately seek. This isn't just about feeling cold. It's about survival. Seasoned veterans, their faces etched with the harsh realities of this unforgiving land, begin to move with quiet, practiced urgency. They are digging, not for fortifications, but for something far more primal abed. You imitate their movements, the shovel heavy in your numbed hands, the sand surprisingly cooperative as it yields. You carve out a shallow depression, just enough to curl your body into. Then comes the unsettling part, a desperate tactic learned from the local Bedouin. You lie down, the sand still cool, almost damp against your back, and your comrades begin to carefully push sand over your body. It's a bizarre, almost ritualistic act, the sensation of being buried alive. You feel the grains settling over your legs, your torso, your arms. A strange mixture of fear and fragile hope fills you. The weight is oppressive, yet it promises warmth, a barrier against the night's freezing grip. You are instructed to leave only your nose exposed, a small, vulnerable opening to draw breath from the vast, indifferent desert. As the last shovelful is placed, darkness has fully descended. You are encased, a living coffin in the vast expanse. The desert's sounds are muffled now, the distant whisper of the wind, the occasional scuttling creature, all dulled by your earthen blanket. You close your eyes, the sand a heavy shroud around you, feeling the faint, residual warmth from your own body trapped against your skin. This is your bed, a temporary grave. Sleep, if it comes, will be a gamble. The diaries of the Africa Corps would later speak of such nights. I slept like a corpse. One entry would read, a chilling prelude to the morning's grim discovery when we dug up real corpses. You understand the sentiment now. Lying here, feeling the suffocating weight. To sleep is to flirt with oblivion, a dance between the desperate need for rest and the very real possibility of never waking again. Swallowed whole by the desert's shifting embrace. And still, the wind whispers, a lullaby of the lost, as you wait for the dawn. The deep, silent hours of the night stretch on, each one an eternity within your sandy confines. You are still buried, only your nostrils exposed, and your mind, despite the exhaustion, refuses to fully surrender to slumber. A new, more insidious anxiety begins to crawl into your consciousness, a fear born not of the cold, but of the unseen life that thrives in this barren landscape. The desert is not empty. It teems with creatures seeking refuge, seeking warmth, just as desperately as you are. You imagine them even before you feel them. Snakes. Their cold bodies drawn to any lingering heat, slithering silently across the sand. Scorpions. Those eight-legged nightmares, their tails poised, their venom a potent threat. And the desert rats, bold and persistent. The thought alone sends a shiver through you. These aren't the soft, harmless insects of your homeland. These are creatures whose bite or sting could easily mean an agonizing night. Or perhaps, no morning at all. You feel a subtle tremor against your cheek. A delicate tickle that instantly jolts you into a heightened state of awareness. Is it a grain of sand shifting in the wind? Or is it something alive, something small and venomous, drawn by the faint warmth of your body? Your breath hitches, a silent gasp trapped within the sand-muffled space. You can't move without disrupting your meager protection from the cold, without inviting even greater risk. You lie there, rigid, listening to the frantic thrum of your own heartbeat, a frantic drum against the silence, the memory of countless soldiers who woke up with searing pain, some never waking at all, plays like a haunting reel in your mind. But it's not just the venomous threats. The air itself carries other irritations, flies, a relentless, buzzing torment during the day. Occasionally settle even at night. Mosquitoes, tiny vampires, seeking any exposed skin. You remember the foresight of some, wrapping rags around their heads before burrowing, a desperate attempt to create a barrier. You regret not doing so, imagining a fly exploring the sensitive skin around your exposed nose, or worse, a mosquito finding its mark. This isn't just about sleeping. It's about enduring a crawling nightmare. Every night a silent battle against unseen foes. A quiet dread accompanies the memory of an Italian veteran's words, whispered around a faint, forbidden fire one evening. Every night was like lying in a giant nest of insects. You understand that sentiment now, feeling the subtle movements beneath the sand. Hearing phantom scuttles in the dark, it's a sensory overload for the imagination, creating images almost too vivid to bear. A scorpion, its segmented body slowly traversing the bridge of your nose, its stinger arcing, ready to strike. It's a vision that freezes your blood, an internal terror in the external cold. And still, the desert breathes around you, full of hidden life, full of silent threats. You remain motionless, hoping against hope that whatever stirs in the darkness will simply pass by, leaving you to your precarious, vulnerable slumber until the first cold light of dawn promises a temporary reprieve from the crawling terrors of the night. Eventually, the first faint hint of pre-dawn gray touches the eastern horizon. You emerge from your sandy cocoon, shaking off the clinging grains, stiff and aching but alive. The stark reality of another desert day quickly sets in. But as the sun ascends, you find yourself seeking a different kind of shelter for the coming night, the colossal forms of the Panzer tanks. You observe the tank crews, the elite of the Afrika Korps. Yet at night, they are reduced to a sight that would shock anyone back home. You watch them, then join them, huddling under the belly of these metal beasts. The sheer bulk of the tanks offers a formidable barrier against the relentless, cutting wind. The cold, though less extreme than in the dead of night, still promises to gnaw at your core. Here, beneath the steel behemoths, you find a temporary illusion of safety. There's a curious warmth emanating from the still cooling engines. After hours of grinding movement, the massive machinery holds on to its heat like a memory, a gentle, radiating comfort. You press yourself against a cold steel plate, feeling the residual warmth seep into your clothes. A blessed relief. It's a trade-off, a bargain struck with the devil of survival. The engine's warmth is a siren song, pulling you closer, promising a fleeting moment of peace. But the warmth comes at a perilous cost. The air beneath the tanks hangs heavy, thick with the acrid scent of oil, the metallic tang of diesel, and the faint, yet insidious, sweetness of exhaust fumes. You can feel it coating your throat, a dry, rasping sensation with every breath. Carbon monoxide, a silent killer, lurks in these pockets of comfort. You know the stories, the hushed whispers of comrades who, seeking deeper warmth, curled too close to an exhaust pipe and simply never woke up. Their sleep, seemingly peaceful, was in reality a slow, suffocating surrender. You watch others, their faces grim, their bodies contorted in uncomfortable positions, curled up like stray dogs seeking shelter beneath the massive treads and armored skirts. These are the vaunted tank crews, now reduced to this primitive existence. You settle into your own awkward position, drawing your knees up, trying to make yourself as small as possible, minimizing exposure to the biting wind while avoiding the heavier concentrations of fumes. The engine hums in your memory, even when silent, a constant reminder of the metallic giants above. We slept with steel and woke up in oil fumes, a fellow soldier mutters, his voice raspy, echoing the sentiment that would later be recorded in military diaries. It's a chilling summary of the daily reality. You close your eyes, the metallic scent filling your nostrils, a constant reminder of the poison you willingly breathe for the sake of a few degrees of warmth, a sliver of protection from the wind. This is your steel tomb, offering a precarious comfort that could, at any moment, transform into your final resting place. And still, the desert wind howls around the tank, a mournful song against the steel, as you drift into a fitful, poisoned slumber. As the desert night yields to another relentless day, you emerge from the shelter of the tank, the scent of oil and diesel still clinging to your clothes and hair. Your throat feels dry, a persistent scratch reminding you of the fumes you inhaled. Now, you face a different, more pervasive enemy, the very ground beneath your feet, the sand itself. It's not merely a surface, it's a living, breathing entity, perpetually shifting, endlessly deceptive. You might have used the sand as a makeshift mattress, hoping its soft, yielding nature would offer some comfort. Indeed, for a few precious hours, it did. But the desert's embrace is a slow betrayal. The ground, seemingly stable when you lay down, has subtly, insidiously, begun to swallow everything. Your boots, carefully placed beside you, are half buried, requiring a gentle digging to retrieve them. Your rifle lies partially submerged, its barrel filled with fine, abrasive grit, and your own body, even after a mere few hours of rest, feels as though it has sunk deeper, the sand having claimed a part of you, clinging to your uniform, finding its way into every crease and fold. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a visceral, unsettling experience. The sand is everywhere. You can feel it between your teeth, a gritty residue that persists. You cough, a dry, hacking sound that brings up not phlegm, but more sand, a fine, reddish powder that has infiltrated your airways. The horrifying truth dawns on you. The desert's bed doesn't just swallow objects, it swallows your very breath. Stories of men coughing up blood, their lungs irritated and inflamed by the relentless infiltration of fine silica, become terrifyingly real. You remember an eyewitness account, a soldier whose eyes held a haunted quality. Speaking of those nights, he recounted how, no matter how tightly he closed his eyes, he could feel the sand, like a slow, inexorable river, flowing into his lungs. It was an omnipresent invasion, a silent assault on the most basic function of life. You feel that sensation now, a phantom itch in your windpipe, a sense of dryness that water cannot fully quench. The desert promises a soft resting place, but delivers a slow, granular suffocation. The fine particles, carried by the slightest breeze, are everywhere. They coat your mess kit, grit your teeth, abrade your skin, and seep into the very fabric of your being. This landscape, once holding a romanticized allure in recruiting posters, is now a brutal reality. A constant battle against the elements. The desert's bed, you realize, is always a traitor. It offers a fleeting illusion of comfort, only to slowly, subtly, claim you as its own. Each morning brings a fresh layer of sand, a fresh reminder of the night's silent infiltration, a testament to the desert's power. And still, the sand whispers across the dunes, a constant, shifting presence, forever reminding you that you are merely a transient guest in its vast, indifferent domain. The sun continues its ascent, burning away the last wisps of morning chill, and with it, the fleeting comfort of any potential rest. As you prepare for another day of marching, fighting, and enduring, the stark reality of your material deprivation becomes painfully clear. There is no proper bedding here, no soft mattresses, no clean sheets, not even simple straw pallets. The luxury of a blanket is a distant dream, a memory from a life that feels worlds away. You look around at your comrades, their faces gaunt, their eyes heavy with perpetual exhaustion. Each man carries what little he has, and for bedding, ingenuity born of desperation is the only currency. You've seen them, and yourself have adopted similar tactics. Sacks, once holding supplies or ammunition, are emptied and then stuffed with whatever soft, albeit often gritty, material can be found: dry desert grasses, crushed leaves, even just sand itself to create a makeshift, lumpy pillow. It's a testament to the human need for even the smallest comfort amidst overwhelming hardship. The desperation for warmth and softness has driven some to more drastic measures. You remember the hushed conversations, the furtive exchanges. Arab rugs, often richly patterned and surprisingly warm, become highly prized commodities. They are not acquired through trade, but necessity, liberated from abandoned villages. Guilt, if any, is quickly overshadowed by the profound, animalistic need for warmth when the temperature plummets. Captured British nets are repurposed, offering a thin, almost symbolic layer of separation from the harsh ground. The Italians, often seen as more adaptable, are known to trade their precious rations of wine for blankets. It's a stark illustration of priorities, a fleeting moment of intoxication traded for a few hours of warmth. The Germans, with their reputation for meticulous organization, are also forced to scavenge, their elite status dissolving in the face of the desert's brutal equalizing force. You've participated in the quiet, desperate looting of abandoned structures, searching for any scrap of cloth, any fabric that could offer solace against the night's bite. You remember nights when the cold was so intense, the wind so sharp, that the only way to generate any meaningful warmth was to huddle together. 3, 4, sometimes 5 men, pressing their bodies close, sharing the scant warmth of a single, threadbare blanket. The intimacy is uncomfortable, born of dire necessity. But the collective body heat becomes a lifeline. It's a raw, visceral experience of human connection forged in the crucible of survival, where individual modesty is shed in favor of shared warmth. The stark contrast with the image of the mighty Wehrmacht, the disciplined and well-equipped German army, is a painful reality. Here, in the heart of North Africa, these soldiers, once considered the pinnacle of military prowess, are reduced to beggars of cloth, their uniforms thin, their bedding non-existent. The desert strips away all pretense, all glory, leaving only the raw, vulnerable human beneath. And still, the wind whispers, carrying the ghost of forgotten comforts. As you learn to find solace in the rough texture of a stolen rug, the meager warmth of shared body heat, and the ever-present, grinding awareness of your profound material deprivation. As the long, brutal day finally begins its slow descent into twilight, the promise of the desert night looms large once more. The air, still carrying the faint echo of the sun's fury, begins to cool with alarming speed. You instinctively begin to search for the day's warmth, not in the air, but in the earth itself. The memory of frostbite, of nights spent trembling, spurs you on. But this night, you seek a different kind of warmth, a forbidden, subtle glow that might just ward off the deepest chill. Fires, the ultimate symbol of comfort and protection in the wild, are strictly forbidden. The smallest flicker, the faintest plume of smoke, would be a beacon in the vast, open darkness, an immediate giveaway of your position to enemy patrols. Detection means artillery, machine gun fire, or worse, a silent raid under the cover of night. So, the longing for a crackling blaze must be suppressed, relegated to distant memories of home. Instead, you adopt an ancient, almost primordial technique. As the sun's power is at its peak, you spend precious moments gathering stones, dark, heavy pieces of rock that have absorbed the intense desert heat. You feel their warmth radiating against your palms, a tangible comfort. These are the desert's silent batteries, storing the sun's energy for later use. As dusk deepens, you carefully arrange these heated stones in shallow pits, then cover them gently with sand. The warmth, trapped beneath the surface, begins to leak out slowly, creating a small, localized pocket of heat. You join your squad, huddled together in a tight circle, a silent conspiracy against the cold. In the center, almost invisible to the casual eye, a tin can holds a few precious embers, glowing faintly, casting no discernible light upwards, only a subtle warmth that rises to meet your chilled faces. This is your invisible fire, a shared secret, a defiant act against the desert's tyranny. The warmth is faint, barely noticeable, but it is there, a psychological anchor in the overwhelming cold. You remember a diary entry, read aloud by a comrade one quiet afternoon. We held those stones like relics, believing we would live till morning. You understand that sentiment deeply now, as you press your bare hands against the warm sand above your buried stones, feeling the faint, gentle heat. It's more than just physical warmth. It's a spark of hope, a connection to life in a place that constantly threatens death. These stones, humble and silent, become talismans, imbued with the desperate belief that they will carry you through the longest, coldest hours. The truth is, the only fire left in the night is belief itself. The belief that the sun will rise again, that this shared, meager warmth will be enough, that you will endure. The desert wind continues its relentless song, a cold, mournful melody that seeks to extinguish all hope, all warmth. But here, in this small, huddled circle, a fragile resistance persists. You close your eyes, the scent of hot sand and the faint, almost imperceptible warmth against your skin. A silent prayer for morning, a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of unimaginable hardship. Just when you believe you've adapted to the desert's predictable cruelty, the scorching days, the freezing nights, the hidden crawlers, the landscape reveals another, more catastrophic weapon, the sandstorm. One moment, stars pierce the vast dark canvas above. The next, a terrifying, silent roar approaches, a wall of churning grit that devours the horizon. There's no gradual transition, no gentle warning. The world simply erupts. You recall the accounts, the hushed, fearful stories of sandstorms that buried entire camps overnight. The force of the wind is unimaginable, a physical presence that presses against your body, threatening to rip you from your feet. The fine sand, propelled at incredible speeds, lashes at every exposed inch of skin. Feeling like 1,000 tiny needles, you instinctively cover your face, trying to shield your eyes, nose, and mouth from the relentless assault. But the sand is everywhere, a suffocating, blinding cloud that reduces visibility to mere inches. Tents, those fragile shelters, offer no resistance. You witness them collapsing, tearing apart like flimsy paper, their canvas shredded, their poles snapping under the immense pressure. Equipment, carefully stored, is swallowed almost instantly by the shifting dunes that rise and fall with the storm's fury. The roar of the wind, the hiss of the sand, become the only sounds in the universe. An overwhelming symphony of chaos. Tanks, once formidable, become vulnerable shells, their vents quickly clogged, their engines sputtering to a halt as the abrasive grit works its way into every mechanism. The disorientation is absolute. Day and night become indistinguishable. swallowed by the perpetual twilight of the storm. You lose all sense of direction, all sense of time. One moment you are standing, the next you are driven to your knees, then forced to crawl, trying to find shelter, any shelter, from the howling vortex. You choke on the airborne particles, your lungs burning, a desperate cough racking your body as you fight for each precious breath. The air itself seems to turn solid, a dense, granular mass that seeks to fill every orifice, every crevice. The most terrifying prospect, the one that whispers in the back of your mind as you struggle to breathe, is the image of a night's sleep turning into a mass grave. Soldiers, buried alive by the shifting dunes, suffocating in their improvised sand beds, never waking as the storm silently, relentlessly, piled more and more sand upon them. It's a death without a mark, a disappearance without a trace, save for the silent testimony of the desert itself. You feel the sand piling against your back, the weight increasing with every passing minute. A chilling reminder of your vulnerability. And still, the storm rages, a terrifying, primal force that makes you feel utterly insignificant. The meticulous planning, the strategic maneuvers, the training all rendered meaningless by this indifferent natural power. You are reduced to an animal instinct, clawing for survival against a foe that cannot be fought, only endured. Each breath is a struggle, each moment an eternity, as you pray for the storm to pass, for the light of day, for any sign that the world has not been permanently swallowed by the desert's furious breath. Even when the sandstorm finally abates, leaving behind a reshaped landscape of fresh dunes and a pervasive, gritty silence, the night remains an enemy of a different kind. The threat of nature may recede, but the human element persists, a constant, gnawing anxiety that infiltrates every attempt at rest. You are a soldier, and even in the desolate expanses of North Africa, there is always an enemy, always a shadow. The British SAS, those elusive, ghost-like commandos, are a constant terror, their raids striking with swift, brutal precision under the cover of darkness. And then there are the local partisans, fighting for their land, their motives clear, their methods often unforgiving. These are not distant threats. They are palpable, immediate dangers that make a full night's sleep an impossible luxury. You know that to truly surrender to slumber is to risk everything. Guard shifts are not a formality. They are a desperate necessity. You, like every other man, are assigned to watch, your eyes scanning the vast, featureless horizon, your ears straining against the whisper of the wind, searching for any anomaly, any sign of movement. These shifts are short, brutally so, rotating every 1 to 2 hours. Just as your body begins to relax, just as your mind begins to drift. The gentle nudge of a comrade brings you back to the harsh reality of wakefulness. There is no such thing as an uninterrupted night here. The consequence is a pervasive, bone-deep exhaustion that becomes a constant companion. Your mind feels foggy, your movements sluggish, your senses dulled. But adaptation is the key to survival, and you, like your comrades, learn to master the art of the micro-nap. You find yourself dozing for mere seconds, sometimes while standing, leaning against a vehicle or a rock, your body swaying precariously before a sudden jolt brings you back to full, albeit temporary, awareness. These aren't refreshing sleeps. They are tiny, desperate sips from the well of unconsciousness, just enough to stave off complete collapse. A German soldier, his voice raspy with weariness, once articulated the grim truth of this existence. Sleep here was not rest. It was training for a slower death. You understand his words now, feeling the cumulative toll of endless nights of fragmented sleep. Your reflexes are dulled, your decision-making compromised, your spirit slowly eroded. This isn't just about physical fatigue. It's about a deep psychological weariness that seeps into every fiber of your being. The knowledge that exhaustion can kill faster than bullets is a chilling reality. A moment of inattention, a slowed reaction time, a lapse in judgment born of chronic sleep deprivation could be the difference between life and death. The desert, with its vast emptiness and its insidious threats, ensures that you are never truly at peace, never truly safe enough to fully surrender to the restorative power of sleep. And still, the wind carries the faint, ghostly echoes of distant patrols, a constant reminder that the night, for all its beauty, is a time of perpetual vigilance, stealing not just rest, but also a piece of your soul, one fragmented slumber at a time. The relentless cycle of fear, cold, and fragmented sleep grinds on, day after agonizing day, night after endless night. For many, the exhaustion, combined with the constant psychological pressure, becomes unbearable. The human spirit, resilient as it may be, has its limits. And in the bleak landscape of North Africa, where the line between survival and oblivion blurs, some soldiers begin to seek a final, desperate escape from the torment of sleeplessness. You witness the growing despair, the hollow eyes of men who have reached their breaking point. The thirst for true, uninterrupted sleep becomes an overwhelming obsession, a craving more profound than hunger or thirst. For some, the answer lies in temporary oblivion, a numbing of the senses. Schnapps, when it can be procured, becomes a means to an end, a liquid solace to quiet the mind and force the body into a stupor. You see men drink deeply, not for pleasure, but for unconsciousness, hoping to drown out the gnawing anxiety and the physical discomfort. But a more dangerous, more seductive path also emerges: morphine, a precious commodity intended for severe wounds. It sometimes finds its way into the hands of those suffering from an invisible, yet equally debilitating, injury, the wounds of the mind and spirit. You hear the hushed whispers of men seeking a final respite, a deep, dreamless sleep that promises to wash away the horrors of the desert. The allure is undeniable, the promise of true peace, a powerful siren song. The tragic consequence, however, is a stark reality that casts a long shadow over the camps. Some, seeking solace, misjudge the dose, or perhaps, in their profound despair, they don't misjudge it at all. They simply never wake again. Their final sleep becomes a one-way door, a permanent exit from the brutal reality of North Africa. The image of a comrade, seemingly at peace, only to be discovered cold and unresponsive in the morning, becomes a haunting memory that reinforces the perilous gamble of such a choice. There are stories, too, of the hallucinations that precede such a tragic end. Men, succumbing to the drug's embrace, would whisper of lying in their German beds, of the soft pillows and warm blankets, of the familiar sounds of home. They would drift off with visions of loved ones, of green fields and a peaceful life, only to die in their sleep. Their dreams a cruel final comfort before their bodies were returned to the indifferent sand. A poignant diary entry captures this heartbreak. That night, he said he would dream of his wife. The next morning, we dug his grave. You realize the profound irony, the very act of seeking rest, of craving an escape from the nightmare, could lead to the ultimate, permanent sleep. The desert, it seems, has countless ways to claim its victims, some subtle, some dramatic, but all equally final. The allure of oblivion, the desperate yearning for a true night's rest, becomes a treacherous path, promising peace but delivering only silence. And still, the wind whispers across the dunes, carrying the ghosts of those who sought and found their final respite in the deadly embrace of drugs and despair, never to wake beneath the harsh North African sun. As our journey through the sleepless nights of North Africa draws to a close, you are left with a profound understanding of the true enemy faced by German soldiers in this desolate theater of war. It wasn't merely the British tanks or the Allied firepower that claimed lives. It was a more insidious, relentless adversary, the desert night itself, and the stolen piece of sleep. You reflect on the harrowing images we've explored, each one a testament to an unimaginable struggle for survival. Remember the sensation of being buried alive, of the sand becoming a coffin bed, gambling with death for a few degrees of warmth. Recall the chilling dread of sharing blankets with scorpions, the unseen crawl of venomous creatures, turning every night into a living nightmare. Picture yourself beneath the steel giants, the panzer tanks, seeking refuge only to breathe the slow poison of exhaust fumes, transforming a temporary shelter into a potential tomb. Feel the insidious betrayal of the sand itself, an enemy that slowly, silently, swallowed boots, rifles, and even bodies, infiltrating lungs and mouths, a constant, gritty assault on your very breath. Think of the profound deprivation, the necessity of becoming beggars for cloth, stuffing sacks for pillows, stealing Arab rugs, and huddling together for warmth. A stark contrast to the idealized image of an elite army. Remember the desperate ingenuity, the forbidden fires replaced by heated stones, held like precious relics, their meager warmth fueled by belief alone. A small defiance against the overwhelming cold. Relive the terror of the sandstorms, those furious breaths of the desert that buried entire camps overnight, turning slumber into a mass grave, stripping away all sense of direction and time. Endure the fragmented torment of sleep in shifts, the constant vigilance against SAS raids and partisans, transforming rest into a training for a slower death, where exhaustion became a more potent killer than bullets. And finally, comprehend the tragic despair that led some to seek a final respite in schnapps or morphine, a one-way door to a dream of home that would never end, a silent surrender to oblivion. The romantic myth of the Afrika Korps, those dashing figures in their pith helmets, collapses under the weight of these grim realities. What remains is a stark truth. These were not just soldiers fighting a war. They were sleepless ghosts, their minds and bodies perpetually on edge, their dreams haunted by the desert's unrelenting cruelty. The glory of conquest faded, replaced by the primal, grinding struggle for basic survival, for a moment of true rest. In North Africa, a stark truth echoes. German soldiers didn't dream of victory, only of a bed. A clean, soft bed. A safe, warm bed. A bed free from scorpions, sand, and the poison of exhaust. A bed where sleep was not a gamble with death, but a simple, profound comfort. The desert, in its vast, indifferent majesty, ensured that such a dream remained perpetually out of reach. leaving behind a legacy of sleepless nights and the quiet, enduring echoes of profound human suffering. And still, the wind whispers, carrying their stories across the timeless dunes, a lullaby of a land that stole their sleep and their peace forever. You are about to walk in the footsteps of history, under a starlit desert sky. You stand at the edge of a map, not a modern, colorful one, but a parchment unfurling in your mind's eye, depicting a vast, pale expanse. As your gaze sweeps across it, you begin to grasp the sheer, daunting scale of the North African front. Imagine a stretch of land so immense, it would take you days, perhaps weeks, to traverse by foot, a distance of approximately 700 miles. This isn't just a dotted line on paper. It is a ribbon of desolation, winding its way between the ancient port city of Benghazi on the western coast and the bustling, historic hub of Alexandria to the east. Picture the curvature of the earth, the endless horizon, as this formidable territory unfolds before you. This immense expanse, you sense, is not merely a stage for conflict, but an active participant, an opponent as formidable as any army. It is an unforgiving wasteland, a term that barely scratches the surface of its raw, untamed nature. The very ground beneath your imagined feet is a sea of sand, stretching endlessly in every direction, an ocean of golden particles that shift and sigh with every breath of wind. You feel the grit of it, the way it powders everything, invading every crevice, creating an almost surreal landscape that feels both beautiful and utterly hostile. The sun beats down with an intensity that you can almost feel on your skin, even in this imagined space. The heat is a palpable force, a relentless, searing blanket that descends from the heavens, baking the earth and everything upon it. It shimmers in the distance, creating mirages that dance tantalizingly, offering false promises of relief, blurring the lines between reality and illusion. This is not just a high temperature, it is an oppressive weight, draining energy, clouding thoughts, a constant, pervasive presence that defines every moment of existence here. And with the heat comes the thirst, a deep, primal ache that settles in your throat, in your very bones. You understand, instinctively, how water becomes the most precious commodity, more valuable than gold or jewels. For both the men who would fight here and the machines that carried them, thirst was a constant, gnawing enemy. You see a vision of throats parched, lips cracked, minds dulled by the desperate need for a single, cool sip. The very air seems to conspire against life, leaching moisture from everything. It is into this crucible that the ambitious dreams of Benito Mussolini, the Italian dictator, are cast. You hear the echoes of his grand pronouncements, his desire to resurrect a new Roman Empire, his vision stretching across the Mediterranean. He sought to expand his dominion, to leave an indelible mark on history, and a vital piece of that grand strategy was the Suez Canal. You imagine the canal, a narrow, man-made artery of global trade, a lifeline connecting continents, and how its control would grant immense power, a chokehold on vital shipping routes and access to the oil-rich Middle East. To achieve this audacious goal, you witness, in your mind's eye, a vast army assembling. Mussolini dispatched an astounding force, some 200,000 Italian troops, a formidable number on paper. Yet, as you observe them, a sense of anachronism settles in. They are armed, you note with a quiet understanding, with outdated weaponry, relics from the Great War, a conflict that had ended more than 2 decades prior. The rifles, the artillery, the uniforms, all carry a lingering scent of a bygone era, perhaps even a subtle hint of melancholy. You sense a mismatch between the grand ambition and the practical realities on the ground, a vulnerability masked by sheer numbers. Against this vast, seemingly unstoppable wave, you see a small, resolute line forming. Only 36,000 British soldiers stood in their path, a tiny speck against the approaching tide. You can feel the stark contrast in numbers, the immense pressure on these few individuals, holding firm in the face of overwhelming odds. They are the thin red line, a testament to courage and duty, rooted to the scorched earth. Their presence is a quiet defiance, a refusal to yield, a steadfastness born of necessity and commitment. And so, this campaign in the desert, you realize, became much more than a clash of armies. It transformed into a protracted struggle, a desperate contest, not just for territory, but over the very sinews of modern warfare, Middle Eastern oil, and the vital Mediterranean supply routes. You visualize the convoys sailing, vulnerable, across the vast blue, the tankers laden with the black gold that fueled engines of war, the freighters carrying everything from ammunition to rations. This desert, with its endless sands and searing sun, became a stage where the very future of nations, the flow of resources, and the balance of power would be determined under the silent, watchful gaze of the endless sky. You feel a subtle shift in the desert wind, carrying with it the faint scent of anticipation, a premonition of movement. After their initial advance, the Italian forces, in their considerable numbers, had pushed further into Egyptian territory. You imagine them consolidating their position, establishing a substantial foothold at a place called Sidi Barrani. You can almost see the dusty fortifications rising from the sand, the makeshift barracks, the lines of men in their colonial-era uniforms. Perhaps a quiet hum of activity as they dug in, confident in their numerical superiority and the apparent weakness of their foe. The desert around them, vast and empty, seemed to settle back into its indifferent silence, as if nothing would stir it for a long while. But below the surface of this seeming calm, a quiet energy was building. It is now December of 1940, and the calendar itself seems to mark a turning point. You observe a figure of quiet determination, General Wavell, a man whose resolve runs deep beneath a calm exterior. He initiates a bold and unexpected move, a British counterattack, carefully planned in the secrecy of desert nights. You feel the tension building, the whispers of orders given under starlight, the careful preparations, the subtle movements of men and machines designed to avoid detection. The desert, for all its openness, can also be a canvas for stealth when darkness falls, absorbing sounds, blurring shapes. Despite the daunting odds, a stark reminder of the numerical imbalance you perceived earlier, the British forces move with a quiet, efficient precision. You witness their advance, swift and decisive, as they shatter the Italian defenses. It's not just a breach, it's a tearing apart, a collapse of the lines that had seemed so robust. The desert echoes with the sounds of battle, softened by distance. But you feel the shockwaves of this unexpected assault. The Italian troops, caught off guard, perhaps even lulled by their seemingly secure position, find their elaborate fortifications crumbling around them, their World War I-era weapons proving insufficient against this modern, agile assault. The momentum of this unexpected victory carries the British forward. You see the strategic port city of Tobruk, a crucial coastal stronghold, now falling into Allied hands. This isn't just a geographical conquest. It's a blow to morale, a significant gain in the harsh calculus of desert warfare. With Tobruk's fall, you envision the scene of surrender tens of thousands of Italian soldiers, their faces etched with exhaustion and the bitter taste of defeat. Laying down their arms, the sheer number of captives, you realize, is a testament not just to the British fighting prowess, but to the devastating psychological impact of a well-executed surprise attack. The desert, which had been so indifferent, now seems to absorb their despair, their silent march into captivity. The repercussions ripple quickly through the Italian high command. You hear the news, carried on the sparse desert breeze, of General Graziani's dismissal, a direct consequence of this calamitous defeat. This isn't just a change in leadership. It's a public admission of failure, a wound to the pride of the fascist regime. You sense the collective morale of the Italian forces, already shaky, collapsing further, like sand dunes eroding in a storm. The grand ambitions of empire now seem distant, overshadowed by the stark reality of the desert's unforgiving nature and the unexpected strength of the British. The dream of a new Roman dominion wavers, momentarily. With this stunning series of victories, a new path opens up before the British forces. You visualize the road to Tripoli, the capital of Italian Libya, now seemingly clear, beckoning them further west, promising a decisive end to the campaign. The air buzzes with a quiet excitement, a sense of momentum that could carry them to total victory in North Africa. However, at this crucial juncture, a different voice interjects from afar, a voice of command and strategy from the highest echelons of power. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, makes a difficult, strategic decision. He halts the desert advance. You feel the collective sigh of disappointment, perhaps a murmur of frustration from the troops on the ground, so close to what felt like a definitive triumph. But Churchill's reasoning, you understand, is rooted in the larger global conflict. He diverts vital troops, these hardened desert veterans, to Greece, where another front urgently requires their presence. You perceive the complex web of global warfare, how events in one theater directly impact another, how strategic choices, however difficult, are made with the weight of an entire world at war. The tantalizing path to Tripoli remains, for now, unwalked by the British, leaving the desert campaign in a state of suspended animation, awaiting its next inevitable chapter, under the ceaseless, patient gaze of the sun. You sense a subtle shift in the air, a new energy stirring across the vast desert landscape, as if a predator has entered the territory. It is February 1941, and news arrives like a whisper carried on the wind. Erwin Rommel has landed in Tripoli. You picture him, a figure of formidable reputation already, stepping onto the sun-baked soil, bringing with him the formidable Afrika Korps. This isn't just a new general. It's a fresh infusion of German precision, discipline, and a ruthless will to fight, all directed by a man whose name would soon become synonymous with desert warfare. Initially, you understand, Rommel was inexperienced in the unique challenges of the desert. He was a commander forged in the faster, more conventional battlefields of Europe, where roads and established supply lines defined the pace of war. Yet, you perceive in him a remarkable adaptability, a keen intellect that quickly grasped the essence of this new, alien environment. His genius, you realize, lay not in rigid adherence to existing doctrines, but in his innate trust in two fundamental principles, speed and surprise. He intuitively understood that in this vast, open arena, rapid, unpredictable movement could be as decisive as superior firepower. You feel the immediate impact of his presence. Rommel, rather than settling in or meticulously planning for weeks, launches a series of lightning-fast attacks almost immediately. These are not cautious probes, they are blitzkrieg strikes, echoing the tactics that had overwhelmed Europe. You sense the suddenness, the bewildering speed of these maneuvers, designed to throw the enemy off balance, to exploit any weakness before it could be shored up. The desert, which had known a period of relative quiet, suddenly crackles with renewed tension, becoming a blur of movement and dust. His initial target, you learn, is Alamein, a strategic point. You visualize the German forces, highly motorized and operating with audacious confidence, striking with brutal efficiency. The British, who had pushed so far west, now find themselves on the defensive, reacting to an opponent whose methods are as swift as they are unexpected. You witness, almost in real time, the dramatic reversal of fortunes. Within an astonishingly short span of just 12 days, the British are pushed back a staggering 500 miles. You feel the weariness of constant retreat, the frustration of losing ground so rapidly after such hard-won gains. Amidst this whirlwind of retreat and counteroffensive, a significant blow lands General O'Connor. A highly respected British commander is captured. You understand the profound impact of such a loss, not just strategically, but on the morale of the Allied forces. It is a moment of stark realization, a clear signal that a new, dangerous force has arrived. This isn't just a military defeat, it's a psychological one, highlighting the effectiveness of Rommel's daring tactics. And it is through these audacious, almost unbelievable victories that Rommel's legend truly begins to take root. You hear the name whispered, first among his own men, then among his adversaries, Desert Fox. It's a moniker that perfectly encapsulates his cunning, his elusiveness, his ability to strike with unexpected ferocity and then melt away into the vastness of the desert. You perceive the awe, even the grudging admiration, that this title conveys. Remarkably, you sense a shared understanding, a mutual respect, blooming across the battle lines. Both German and British soldiers, despite their roles as bitter enemies, acknowledge and admire Rommel's daring leadership. You can almost hear their conversations in the quiet lulls of battle, their discussions of his brilliance, his audacity, his uncanny ability to read the desert and exploit its unforgiving nature. It's a strange dichotomy, this respect for an opponent, but you recognize it as a testament to Rommel's unique blend of tactical genius and sheer bravery. The desert, in its silent observation, witnesses not just conflict, but the strange, complex dynamics of human respect even amidst the brutality of war, cementing the legacy of the Desert Fox in its golden sands. You feel the shifting sands beneath your feet, a mirror to the shifting fortunes of war. The dizzying pace of Rommel's initial advance eventually slows, giving way to a new, grinding phase of the conflict. Tobruk, that vital port city on the coast, which had been a symbol of British triumph, now transforms into the very center of resistance. You envision it, a stubborn bastion, ringed by German and Italian forces, yet refusing to yield. It becomes a focal point, a defiant island in a sea of enemy control, holding out against a relentless German siege. You can almost hear the distant thud of artillery, the persistent hum of aircraft, as the defenders endure, their resolve hardening with each passing day. Far across the Mediterranean, another crucial point of resistance holds firm Malta. You picture this small, rocky British fortress island, a tiny dot in the vast blue, enduring massive bombardments from the Luftwaffe. Wave after wave of German bombers darken the sky, unleashing their destructive payloads. You hear the wail of air raid sirens, the concussive blasts, the constant tension in the air. Yet, through it all, Malta never falls. It remains a thorn in the Axis side, a critical base for Allied operations, a symbol of unbreakable resilience in the face of overwhelming aerial assault. You understand that its continued defiance is not just a military feat, but a profound psychological victory, disrupting enemy supply lines and tying up significant resources. Back in the desert, the strategic landscape continues to evolve. You perceive the echoes of setbacks from other theaters of war, defeats in Greece and Crete for the British. These distant struggles, though geographically separate, send ripples across the North African front. General Wavell, who orchestrated the initial stunning victories, is replaced by General Auchinleck. It's a somber moment, a recognition of the brutal realities of command in a global conflict where success and failure are constantly reevaluated. You sense the weight of command, the pressure to deliver, the unforgiving nature of military leadership. As the conflict deepens, you witness the Desert Army grow, transforming into a truly multinational force. This isn't just a British endeavor anymore. It's a tapestry of nations woven together by a common cause. You see soldiers from Australia, their distinctive accents blending with the sounds of the desert. There are New Zealanders, Indians, South Africans, Poles, Free French, and many more, all converging under the vast desert sky. Each uniform, each face, represents a different homeland, a different story. But all are united in this harsh environment. You feel the quiet camaraderie, the shared hardships, the understanding that transcends language and culture, forged in the crucible of the endless sand. The nature of the conflict itself settles into a wearisome pattern. Offensives are launched, met by counteroffensives. The lines ebb and flow across the vast desert, like waves on a shore, but with no decisive breakthrough, no final, crushing victory for either side. You experience the grinding fatigue, the relentless cycle of attack and defense, the constant vigilance, the sheer physical and mental toll. The desert, in its vastness, seems to swallow these efforts, yielding ground only to reclaim it later. A sense of exhaustion permeates the air, a deep-seated weariness that seeps into the bones of every soldier. You sense the mounting frustration, the despair of a war that seems to have no end, a perpetual struggle against both the enemy and the elements. The sun beats down with its indifferent heat. The sand stings with every gust of wind, and the relentless nature of the fighting grinds spirits thin. Both sides, you understand, are caught in this agonizing stalemate, each push met with an equally determined shove, leaving behind only the scars of battle and the heavy weight of an unresolved conflict. Under the patient, eternal sky. As you settle deeper into this imagined reality, the grand strategies and sweeping battles begin to recede slightly, replaced by the profound, intimate details of daily existence in this unforgiving land. You begin to understand that survival itself is a constant battle, a continuous negotiation with the environment. Of all the precious commodities, water, you realize, is the greatest prize. It is more than a drink. It is life itself. You feel the parched dryness of the air, the constant, low thrum of thirst in your throat. And you understand how every drop is guarded, rationed, savored. The iconic German jerry can, a robust metal container designed for portability and durability, becomes essential for survival. Its practical design copied by all. You can almost see the glint of sun on its worn surface, a symbol of hope and necessity, carried carefully, its contents precious beyond measure. Beneath the seemingly pristine surface of the sand, a silent, unseen danger lies buried. Minefields, placed by both sides, litter the desert. You feel a subtle ripple of unease as you understand that these unseen traps will continue to claim lives long after the war itself concludes. A silent, patient enemy lurking in wait. Each step across the vast emptiness becomes a calculated risk, a testament to the enduring peril of a landscape scarred by conflict. You sense the quiet tension, the constant awareness of this hidden threat, even in moments of calm, as the desert whispers its deadly secrets. The weather itself is a formidable foe. You experience the sudden, overwhelming force of sandstorms. You feel the gritty particles assaulting your face, blinding your eyes, filling your mouth. The world around you dissolves into a swirling maelstrom of ochre and brown, reducing visibility to mere inches. Roads vanish beneath mountains of shifting sand. Convoys are brought to a standstill, their drivers forced to navigate by compass alone, relying on the unwavering magnetic pull rather than sight. You understand the sheer disorientation, the feeling of being utterly lost in a featureless tempest. The wind howling its ancient, indifferent song. The desert, you discover, is a land of extremes. Temperatures swing wildly from the deadly, scorching heat of the day, where the sun beats down with a brutal, relentless intensity, to the freezing, bone-chilling cold of the night. You feel the sun's oppressive weight giving way to the biting cold as darkness falls, demanding thick blankets and warm fires. The change is so drastic, so absolute, that it feels almost surreal, a constant physiological challenge that drains strength and resilience. You shiver in the imagined night, then feel the oppressive weight of the sun's glare, a relentless cycle that knows no mercy. And then there are the smaller, but no less tormenting, antagonists. You hear the incessant buzz of flies, attracted by sweat and scarcity of sanitation, landing on every exposed surface, a constant, irritating presence. You feel the subtle dread of encountering scorpions, their venomous tails poised, or snakes, camouflaged perfectly against the sand, hidden dangers in a world already fraught with peril. These creatures, though small, add to the daily grind, the constant state of alertness, the cumulative psychological toll of living in such an elemental, hostile environment. Amidst all this hardship, the human heart yearns for something beyond the sand and the struggle. You perceive the quiet longing that settles over soldiers on both sides, a deep, pervasive ache for home. You see them, sitting in the fading light, eyes distant, minds wandering to loved ones, to familiar landscapes, to the comforts of a life far removed from this harsh reality. It is a universal emotion, transcending the bitter divisions of war. And in a poignant moment of shared melancholy, you hear the quiet strains of a song. Lily Marlene, drifting across the no man's land, sung in different languages, but carrying the same weight of longing, uniting enemies in a shared human experience of wistful remembrance. You feel the strange, profound beauty of this moment, where a simple melody can bridge the chasm of conflict, a testament to the enduring power of shared emotion in the midst of utter desolation. You are now transported to a desolate outpost, a remote speck in the vastness of the desert Bir Hakeim. You feel the raw, elemental nature of this place, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the only landmarks are the shifting dunes and the distant haze. Here, you observe a contingent of Free French forces, under the resolute leadership of General Koenig, have fortified themselves. Imagine 600 men, a determined, compact force, digging in, creating a formidable defensive position in this seemingly barren landscape. You feel their unwavering resolve, their commitment to stand firm against whatever the desert might throw at them, a beacon of defiance in the heart of Axis territory. The quiet, almost unbearable tension of waiting is broken. You hear the rumble of approaching engines, the clatter of treads against the sand. Italian tanks, part of Rommel's forces, launch the initial attack. You witness their advance, powerful machines designed to punch through defenses. But here, in this carefully prepared outpost, they meet an unexpected and brutal resistance. The French guns, positioned with precision and manned by determined soldiers, open fire with devastating effect. You hear the roar of artillery, the sharp crack of shells, and you see the tanks, once symbols of invincibility, crumpling and exploding under the accurate fire, turning into burning hulks on the desert floor. Their advance halted cold. The immediate danger is repelled, a momentary triumph in the face of overwhelming odds. However, the desert fox is not easily deterred. Rommel himself, understanding the strategic importance of this stubborn resistance, brings in his formidable German divisions, a new wave of relentless pressure. You feel the air grow heavy with the thrum of engines, the chilling drone of Stuka bombers as they descend from the sky. These are not mere aircraft. They are instruments of terror, their sirens wailing a terrifying song as they dive, unleashing bombs with pinpoint accuracy. You feel the concussive blasts, the earth trembling beneath you, the constant, nerve-shredding bombardment. The French at Bir Hakeim are now caught in a relentless siege, subjected to an agonizing onslaught from both ground and air. For 10 days, an eternity in the brutal calculus of war, the French endure. You perceive their immense courage, their unwavering tenacity in the face of such overwhelming odds. They hold their ground, their spirits unbowed, despite the constant barrage, the dwindling supplies, the sheer physical and mental exhaustion. Each passing hour is a testament to their fortitude, a refusal to surrender, a quiet, stubborn defiance that echoes across the vast emptiness of the desert. As the siege stretches on, you feel the strategic shift. The primary objective is no longer to simply hold the ground, but to extract the fighting force. Under the cover of darkness, in the deep quiet of the desert night, the French execute a daring breakout. You imagine the stealthy movements, the whispered commands, the tension of slipping through enemy lines under the cloak of night. It devolves into brutal hand-to-hand fighting, a desperate, visceral struggle for survival in the darkness, where shadows dance with brief, violent clashes. You feel the raw desperation, the surge of adrenaline, the sheer will to escape the tightening noose. Though forced to withdraw from Bir Hakeim, leaving behind their shattered defenses, Their stand is anything but a defeat. You understand the immense strategic value of their sacrifice, their tenacious resistance, their 10 days of defiant opposition had delayed Rommel's advance, disrupting his timetable, forcing him to commit valuable resources and precious time. This delay had a ripple effect, impacting the larger flow of the campaign. And even from their adversaries, you sense a profound admiration. Their courage, their stubborn refusal to yield, earned respect from all sides, a testament to the enduring human spirit even amidst the brutal logic of war. Bir Hakeim, though a small outpost, becomes a powerful symbol of resilience. Whispered across the desert sands, a quiet monument to courage. You feel the weight of history pressing in again, a sense of an inevitable, tragic turning point. Rommel, the desert fox, returns to Tobruk, the very stronghold that had defied his earlier advances and had become a symbol of Allied resolve. This time, however, the situation is different. You sense an overwhelming strength accompanying him, a formidable concentration of German and Italian forces, meticulously prepared and numerically superior. The air around Tobruk is thick with a chilling sense of purpose, a palpable determination to finally break this stubborn resistance. It is June 1942, and the sun beats down with an almost indifferent cruelty on this fateful landscape. You witness the concentrated firepower unleashed upon the defenses of Tobruk. The iconic German 88 mm guns, powerful and precise, blast through the British tank defenses with devastating efficiency. You hear the deafening roar of the cannons, the concussive force of the explosions, the metallic shriek of tearing armor. The carefully constructed lines, the dug-in positions, are systematically obliterated under this relentless assault. You feel the earth tremble, the air vibrate with destruction, as the defenses, once so proud, begin to crumble under the sheer weight of fire. The collapse is swift, brutal, and tragically decisive. Tobruk, which had held out for so long, falls in a matter of days. You perceive the despair, the exhaustion, the ultimate futility of continued resistance against such overwhelming force. With its fall, a staggering number of Allied soldiers, some 30,000 men, are captured. You see their faces, etched with the bitter taste of defeat, their long march into captivity marking a somber end to a valiant, but ultimately unsustainable, defense. The desert, in its silent observation, bears witness to another tide turning, another chapter closing. This victory, you realize, marks the very height of Rommel's fame, a zenith in his illustrious, yet controversial, career. News of his triumph echoes across the Axis powers, a resounding affirmation of his tactical brilliance. Hitler, far away in his distant headquarters, celebrates this monumental achievement by promoting Rommel to Field Marshal, a rare and prestigious honor. You imagine the pomp and circumstance, the speeches, the accolades, cementing his legendary status as a military genius, a commander capable of achieving the impossible. In Berlin, the fall of Tobruk is hailed as irrefutable proof of Axis superiority, a potent propaganda victory that feeds into the narrative of their unstoppable might. You hear the triumphant broadcasts, the celebratory headlines, painting a picture of an invincible war machine. The capture of such a symbolic stronghold provides a powerful morale boost, bolstering confidence and fueling further ambition. However, across the Channel, in London, the news of Tobruk's fall lands like a lead weight. For Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, it is a bitter humiliation, a deeply personal blow. You feel the immense pressure, the heavy burden of leadership, as he grapples with this devastating setback. Tobruk, for so long, had been more than just a military outpost. It had been a potent symbol of defiance, a testament to British resilience in the face of adversity. Its sudden collapse is a crushing blow to morale, a dark shadow cast over the Allied war effort. You understand the profound sense of disappointment, the ache of perceived failure, as the desert, once again, writes its indelible mark on the course of global conflict, leaving behind a legacy of both triumph and despair. You feel a new tension in the air, a sense of urgency, as the gravity of the situation in North Africa demands decisive action. The fall of Tobruk had been a bitter pill to swallow for the British, and the leadership recognized the urgent need for change. In the wake of this devastating loss, you witness a significant reshuffling at the top. Churchill, with his unwavering resolve, replaces General Auchinleck into this crucial theater. He sends two formidable figures, General Alexander, to take overall command, and, more significantly for the ground troops, Bernard Montgomery. You perceive Montgomery, a man known for his meticulous planning, his rigorous discipline, and his unshakable self-belief, stepping onto the desert stage, ready to imprint his will upon the Eighth Army. His arrival brings a palpable shift in atmosphere. Montgomery immediately sets about boosting morale, understanding that confidence is as crucial as weaponry. You feel the renewed sense of purpose, the quiet rekindling of hope among the tired, battle-worn troops. Crucial to this revival is the arrival of new, powerful tanks, the American-made Shermans and Grants. You imagine the sight of these modern machines, their sturdy frames and formidable cannons, rolling into position, a tangible sign of renewed commitment and capability. Their presence instills a quiet confidence, a belief that the tide can, indeed, be turned. Montgomery's strategic brilliance quickly manifests. He anchors the Allied defense at a pivotal location, El Alamein. You visualize this critical stretch of land, a narrow corridor approximately 40 miles wide, bordered on one side by the Mediterranean Sea, and on the other by the impassable Qattara Depression. This natural choke point, you realize, negates Rommel's famed flanking maneuvers, forcing any attacking army into a direct, head-on confrontation. You sense the cleverness of this choice, turning the vast, open desert into a strategic bottleneck, an arena where raw strength and meticulous planning would dictate the outcome. Beyond strategy, Montgomery instills a new regimen of discipline and rigorous training across the entire Eighth Army. You feel the intensity of these drills, the repetitive practice, the emphasis on precision and coordination. Every soldier, from the highest-ranking officer to the newest private, is subjected to this demanding regime, honing their skills, building their endurance, forging them into a cohesive, disciplined fighting force. You sense the unwavering expectation, the insistence on excellence, as Montgomery molds his army into a sharp, formidable instrument. And perhaps most importantly, Montgomery ensures that every single soldier, regardless of rank, is briefed on the battle plan. You imagine the quiet gatherings, the maps spread out, the clear, concise explanations of the upcoming operation. This isn't just about following orders. It's about understanding the why, about feeling a personal stake in the grand strategy. This unprecedented level of communication fosters a profound sense of shared purpose, a collective understanding of the mission ahead. As the days turn into weeks and the preparations reach their peak, A quiet, growing confidence begins to permeate the ranks. You feel the shift from weary resignation to resolute determination. This isn't just another battle. You sense this is the decisive showdown. This is where the long, arduous desert campaign will reach its climax, where the fate of North Africa, and perhaps the wider war, will be decided. The desert, with its ancient, silent wisdom, seems to hold its breath, awaiting the monumental clash that is about to unfold, under the watchful gaze of the ever-present sun. You are now at the precipice of a momentous event, the very air thick with the silent roar of anticipation. It is October 23, 1942, a date that will forever be etched in the annals of this brutal war. As night descends over the desert, a chilling silence hangs heavy, broken only by the whispers of the wind. Then, precisely at 9:40 p.m., a cataclysmic roar erupts. The British unleash the largest artillery barrage of the entire war. You feel the earth shudder beneath you, the concussive force rattling your very bones. Thousands of guns thunder in unison, sending a torrent of steel and fire arcing through the night sky. A terrifying symphony of destruction raining down on the Axis lines. It is an act of overwhelming force, a declaration of intent that leaves no doubt about the scale of the impending assault. As the barrage lifts and the advance begins, a new, insidious challenge emerges. The desert floor, carefully prepared by the Axis, reveals its deadly secrets, dense minefields. You perceive the harrowing reality as advancing tanks, the pride of Montgomery's rejuvenated army. Encounter these hidden dangers. The desert, already a formidable foe, now actively fights back. Explosions ripple across the landscape, not just from enemy fire, but from the ground itself. You feel the jarring impact, the heavy casualties inflicted, the slow, grinding progress as engineers desperately clear paths. A stark reminder of the brutal cost of even a well-planned offensive. Meanwhile, a familiar figure is recalled from sick leave, his presence once again looming large on the battlefield Rommel. You sense his grim determination as he returns to a desperate situation, rallying his men, urging them to hold firm against the overwhelming British onslaught. Despite the relentless bombardment, despite the numerical disadvantage, he manages to instill a stubborn resolve in his weary troops. You feel the fierce loyalty he commands, the unwavering commitment his soldiers have to their desert fox, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. But this time, the British commander is equally unyielding. Montgomery's resolve is absolute. You hear his powerful words, echoing through the tense desert air, a declaration of unwavering commitment. If we can't stay alive here, we'll stay dead here. It is a stark, almost brutal refusal to retreat, an ironclad determination that galvanizes his forces. You understand that this is truly a fight to the finish, a test of wills where neither side is willing to cede an inch of the precious sand. The battle grinds on, a brutal exchange of attrition and strategic maneuvering for 10 agonizing days. Then, on November 2nd, a final, decisive blow is unleashed. Operation Supercharge. You visualize the renewed offensive, the concentrated power of the British and Allied forces pressing forward with an unstoppable momentum. This is the moment of truth, the culmination of all the training, all the planning, all the sacrifices. The Axis lines, already stretched thin, already battered by the relentless artillery and continuous assaults, begin to fracture under this renewed pressure. Rommel, with a heavy heart, faces an undeniable reality, out of vital fuel, his tanks rendered immobile, and with no hope of reinforcements. He has no choice. You perceive his agonizing decision, the bitter taste of retreat, a rare admission of defeat for the legendary desert fox. His brilliant tactics, his daring maneuvers, are ultimately undone by the sheer weight of Allied logistics and the strategic bottleneck of El Alamein. You watch as his forces begin to withdraw, a slow, agonizing retreat across the vast, empty canvas of the desert, leaving behind the ravaged landscape and the undeniable triumph of the Allied forces. The battle is over, and the desert, with its ancient, silent wisdom, has witnessed a pivotal moment in the history of the world. You feel a profound sense of relief, a quiet exhalation across the vast desert landscape as the dust begins to settle on the battlefield of El Alamein. The tide has irrevocably turned. The British, with renewed vigor and purpose, pursue the retreating Axis forces relentlessly westward. You envision their steady advance, reclaiming territory that had been lost, pushing deeper into the Italian-controlled lands. In January 1943, triumphantly, they capture the strategic port city of Benghazi, a significant milestone. Not long after, the capital of Italian Libya, Tripoli, also falls into Allied hands. You feel the weight of these victories, the liberation of key territories, marking the undeniable success of the campaign. The desert, which had seen so much struggle, now witnesses a march of triumph, a powerful reversal of fortunes. Amidst the celebrations, a momentous arrival, Winston Churchill himself journeys to North Africa, eager to celebrate with the victorious troops. You imagine the scene: the charismatic Prime Minister, his spirit buoyed by this crucial win, addressing the desert army, his words ringing with conviction and pride. Hail their courage, their endurance, their ultimate triumph. You feel the surge of pride among the cheering troops, their faces grimy with sand and sweat, but alight with the joy of victory. It is a moment of shared glory, a powerful connection between leader and soldier, forged in the crucible of this unforgiving land. Churchill, in his characteristic eloquence, declares El Alamein the decisive turning point of the war. You hear his immortal words, echoing across the desert and into the annals of history. This is not the end, but the end of the beginning. You understand the profound significance of this statement, not an absolute conclusion, but a critical shift, a moment where the tide turned irrevocably, signaling the beginning of the end for the Axis powers in this theater and beyond. It is a powerful affirmation of hope, a beacon in the ongoing global conflict. Even in defeat, Rommel's legacy remains complex. You perceive the enduring admiration for his brilliant command, his daring tactics, his ability to inspire unwavering loyalty in his men. Though forced to withdraw, his strategic genius is acknowledged even by his adversaries. He retreats, but his reputation as the Desert Fox persists, a testament to his unique abilities in a land that humbled lesser commanders. You feel the strange mix of respect and relief at his departure, recognizing the formidable opponent he truly was. With the Axis forces thoroughly routed, the North African campaign draws to a close with a decisive Allied victory. You sense the finality, the profound relief that this prolonged, arduous struggle in the sand has reached its conclusion. It is a triumph won through immense sacrifice, strategic brilliance, and the sheer, unyielding endurance of countless individuals. And as the echoes of battle fade, and the desert returns to its ancient, quiet rhythm, you reflect on its indelible impact. This land, harsh and merciless, a crucible of sand, heat, and thirst, forged legends. It tested the limits of human endurance, revealing both the depths of despair and the heights of courage. It reshaped the course of the war, proving that even in the most unforgiving environments, the human spirit, with its capacity for resilience and defiance, can prevail. The desert, in its timeless silence, holds these stories, whispered on the wind, etched in the shifting sands, a permanent testament to the monumental struggles that unfolded beneath its vast, indifferent sky.